Thursday. Great day to be out on the lake. Great day to be out on the golf course. Great day to have your radios tuned in to the Super Thursday Automotive Show. We're back with Louie Herron from Louie Herron Toyota, talking credit.
We are talking some credit and actually having a good opportunity to go over a couple of issues. Again, the first one was closing credit card accounts could hurt you more than you think. And then number two that we thought should be number one would be missing payments, and we talked about that. The third thing, this one here, Chip, is an edgy one, and the reason why I say that is simply because there's some ethics and morals involved in this one. Now, a lot of people think that settling with your lender on past due accounts is a good idea because obviously you're happy that you don't have to pay the full amount. But the thing you got to remember is the lender will still report the remaining balance to the creditors as a negative item. Mm-hmm. So you got to be you know that's a deficiency balance is what they call that. So if you can arrange a deal with your lender so they will not do that, not show that deficiency balance, that's the best course of action. Now, here's the thing. Most people wouldn't even know to ask that question. They wouldn't even really think about it. They would just say, listen, let me just settle out with you. Would you stop calling me if I go ahead, I owe you $4,000. If I pay you $2,000, can we be done with it? And you think you did a pretty good job. You saved yourself some money. Now, I mentioned earlier, ethically and morally, if you have an obligation, you have an obligation. So, again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is a good way to go. I think your own conscience should guide you in that respect. As it relates to credit itself, you just need to know that it's a credit mistake. If you don't get something in writing, you elect to settle with the creditor and pay less money, and that's something you feel that you can live with, you need to make sure they send you something in writing, because if not, what will happen is for the next 7 years, that negative balance will still show, and you're still obligated for that. Mm-hmm. So, again, I don't know, were you aware of that, Chip?
I was not aware that it stayed there for 7 years.
Yeah, so you have to make sure that you really pay close attention when you're settling with the lenders and make sure that at the end of the day you're responsible for that. So the main thing, again, just to reiterate, is if you negotiate something with anybody, make sure that you agree to do so, but you want something in writing stating that the balance is paid in full even though you've settled.
Yeah, and I imagine to save that too, because 3 years down the road, it may come up on your credit report that you haven't paid it or didn't.
And that's the big thing. And at least you have something in writing. And again, as it relates to automotive credit, that's something that we would look for. If you're claiming that you had a dispute, we want to see something in writing from that creditor with some kind of letterhead. Mm-hmm. And you were asking something about credit with real estate and relate. What'd you say to me?
Well, what I was asking about is I've talked to a lot of real estate agents, and they say that credit is still very hard to get for buying homes, and I was wondering if credit was hard to get for cars.
I think to answer your question directly, absolutely not. Consumer credit's wide open in the automotive industry. The thing you got to remember is when we had that credit crash, okay, and all the bubble on the mortgages and all that packaging and all that stuff, remember, we're dealing with 30-year notes. You're dealing with a long time. So we're dealing with issues that we're just basically, paying Peter, robbing Paul, passing the money from one pocket to the other, trying to get out of this situation. The debt is still there. With car loans, think about it. 2008, here we are in 2012. Most automobile loans are 5-year notes.
I got you.
So all those loans written in 08, they're
washed out.
They're done.
Yeah.
They're done. So now the criteria that they have automotive-wise has revamped, reevaluated. They have reassessed their losses and portfolios, and now they're back moving forward full speed with caution, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. They're not doing some of the crazier lending with secondary sources as they used to, but they're still darn aggressive. Really, if you're in the market for a car and you've had bad credit, or you're having a tough time now but had good credit before, I can tell you right now is a phenomenal time to look at any dealership. And I think when you compare your bank or credit union to what the dealership can do, remember the dealership has captive lending, which means basically the manufacturer's nameplate, Honda, Nissan, Toyota, has their own financing source. They typically will be a little more aggressive in the buying patterns, because if you go to the local bank or credit union, and I would always advise you to do that. I'm not saying don't by any means. There's a lot of good people and you have a relationship there. The banks that are with these community banks and these credit unions, they have different laws now that they have no choice. You know what I'm saying, Chip? Mm-hmm. Because of what's been implemented in Congress and what's been signed off, the legislation, they have requirements they have to abide by. They don't have the liberties. So you just want to look at that, always get that information, and again, if the dealer can save you money, obviously wherever's going to save you the most money is the way to go.
I got you. All right. It is Super Thursday with Chip and Louie from Louie Herron Toyota in Milledgeville or theautoschool.com. We've got the latest weather coming up. Give us a call if we've got a question we can answer for you pertaining to anything automotive. 706-453-4140. All right, 27 after 4, weather coming up, and more of your favorites next with the Zombies on Doc 103.9.